Alright, today is going to be a short follow-up video about recording without a click, and I'm going to keep this informal and as rough as possible because really at the end of the day, this is an extremely simple topic and really simple method of recording without a click, as much as people are going to try to complicate it as much as possible. And I'm going to make a lot of mistakes as I'm talking. One take, really rough, really informal. I'm not even wearing pants right now, okay? So let's just roll with it. Now, everything is going to hinge on what I call the scratch track. Some people have been calling it the guide track. Same thing, right? The scratch track is where everything is going to stem from, and if that is not correct, nothing is going to be good from then on. Now, the scratch track is not going to be used on the final product of the song. It is merely there to give most likely the drummer or some other instrumentation a guide to play along to when they do their tracking, right? That, whatever, you know, like I said, it's most likely going to be a drummer, so let's just stick with that. Stick with the obvious things here. When that drummer follows that scratch or guide track, they are going to be putting their final, you know, performance onto the song or track, right? So that scratch track is, you know, most of the time going to be a guitar track, so let's just keep it simple as possible today. Let's pretend it's going to be a guitar track, right? Now, the timing of that scratch track is going to be paramount for a good end product, okay? So, if you are the guitarist doing that scratch track and you can't play the song normally through without it sounding terrible and it being out of time, it's never gonna work in a million years, right? So let's say you're working on a song. It's called Dick in My Ass, okay? And your friend says, hey Bill, can you play that song that you just wrote, Dick in the Ass? And he gives you an acoustic guitar and you go to play it. If you can't play that song all the way through in good timing, you're wasting your time. Don't even record yet. You still have way more practice, whether that be with the song itself or with the metronome. If you can't do a performance to another human being and it doesn't sound like crap, it's never going to work, okay? So your performance needs to be top-notch, right? Most importantly, though, your timing has to be top-notch. And however the timing of the final product you want it to be, that's what it has to be. You don't have to be perfectly, you know, on a grid per se, but it has to be, you know, as human on time as possible. Now, your scratch track, you know, you're allowed to make mistakes, okay? So let's pretend I'm doing a scratch track for my song, Tell Me What You Really Want. Now, let's say I flub a part, right? Like I'm in the chorus. So, well, let's just roll through it, right? We'll start with the intro. Now I'm tapping my foot along. You can't see it on camera. Chorus. Now let's say I screw up. See, that's the wrong chord. Just roll through it. Another wrong chord. The most important things, which is hard to do when I'm talking, is that I'm still in time. So that whole time while I'm talking, it's really hard for me to talk and play. But even so, my left foot is stomping the whole time perfectly, you know, on schedule per se. And, you know, I messed up the chords a few times, but it doesn't matter, right? It's on time, and then when the drummer follows along to that scratch track, it's not going to matter if the chords are wrong or if you flub a guitar note. As long as the main, you know, carcass of the song is there, that's most important. Now, that scratch track, you could just plug straight into whatever the hell you're recording. You could, which I like to do, is actually set up your guitar track how it's actually going to sound in the end result, like, you know, plug it into the amp you're going to be using, use the microphones you're going to be using. I like to do that because it gives the drummer or other instrumentation, you know, a better feel of what the vibe of the song is going to feel like, the energy, the attack of your playing. You know, play as closely as possible. In some rare instances, I have actually used my scratch track as the final track. Tell Me What You Really Want is an example of me doing that. I wound up just nailing it right out of the park for that scratch track, and it was so in time that when I did my drum track, I was like, fuck it, let's just keep it in. And it was as simple as that. Now, that's it. That's all it is. Now, if you have sections that don't have any guitar playing, let's just say it's a a drum fill part, which is just the drum fill playing. On my scratch tracks, you know, I'll keep strumming along in time. This way, my drums, when I'm playing, you know, doing a fill on the drums, I can follow that you know, strum on my guitar to make sure I'm still in time. I'm not speeding up, slowing down, right? I'm creating my own artificial grid, per se, right? Another thing is, you know, if I need to do a count-in, that scratch track is going to have the count-in, you know, like... This way, you know, right on beat 1, everyone is going to be perfectly on time because that scratch track has that count in, right? Your scratch track can be in a million different ways and forms and functions, right? You could add things to it, take things away, whatever you need to do to make sure the carcass and structure of the song is easy to follow and understand. You know, I have been in situations where, you know, I'll do a scratch track, I'll do the drum track, and during the drum track, there's some parts that are like, you know, a really complicated beat, and I'm like really having a hard time following the tempo and structure of the song. I will sometimes go in with a pair of drumsticks and, you know, do another scratch track on top of my guitar scratch track of just doing the beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. You know, that was terrible counting, but you get the idea, right? I'm putting the stick clicks in those hard to play sections to make sure my timing's even more. I'm really just creating an artificial click track, right? Now, once again, you might be saying, why don't I just use a click track? For the example, I'm saying here, like this song, Tell Me What You Really Want. I actually broke down that song before I did this video to see what my tempo changes were, right? And the intro to the song, I think it was at like 135 BPM. And then when I go into the choruses sections, it drops down like 5 BPM to 130. And I can tell when I'm playing that I'm doing that, just the switch up of the feel of the song, right? It goes from like a really fast pace to the... Right? It's like two totally different feels to the song, and, you know, I could have done both of those sections on a click at the same tempo, but I didn't want to, right? Just naturally, when I play those two parts, I'm not consciously thinking about it, I just naturally slow down slightly. And then, at the end of that song, right, I'm like, wait, I remember how it goes now. Yes, sorry. That end section, you gotta listen to the song. The end section, I'm ramping up. I think I increase by like 20 BPM gradually as I'm like, you know, the song starts to fall apart, it's getting crazier and crazier. That's why I don't use a click track, right? Scratch track, no click track. That's it. I don't know. I'm already talking too much. That's it, right? Scratch track. Make sure it's in time. If you can't play the song once through without f***ing up your timing, you're not ready to record, baby. You got another 6 months of practicing to do. Practice with a goddamn metronome. That's it. It's so simple. I'll see you guys next time. I'm gonna go eat some dinner without pants on. All right. And I'm back already. I just want to do a quick clarification. You know, the example I was giving, that song, Tell Me What You Really Want, that's like a really simple A-B kind of song structure, verse, choruses, yada, yada, yada. But you could do this same approach to a much more complicated song arrangement. I'm currently working on a song that is piano-driven, that has like 12 parts. It's like an 8-minute long song. The amount of tempo changes that are going to be in this song is like astronomical, right? But the same concept is going to apply. Instead of doing the scratch track on a guitar, I'm actually going to be doing it on piano. But once again, same thing. And what I have done in the past is, when I have sections of a song that go through breaks and pauses, and I need a way to, you know, start the next section more or less, I do count-ins either by saying it out loud on the scratch track, or, like I said before, a count-in to the beginning of a song. I'll do the same thing, right? So let's say there's a two-section song, and the first section of the song ends with a fade out, and it's going to be, let's say the next section comes in really hard, all the instrumentation at once. On that scratch track, I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. This way, all that instrumentation, when they're following that scratch track, can start right on that one, right? So, like I said, you could do this to a really complicated arrangement of songs. You don't necessarily have to make your scratch track all in one take, right? You could do multiple scratch tracks. For that piano song I'm talking about, that 8-minute long song, it's likely going to be, 6 different scratch tracks that I'm melding together. This way, when I do my final performance on piano or whatever the case is going to be, I could follow that along because, that song is going to be really complicated. I just want to do some clarification there because you can do this method for an extremely complicated song. It's not just for simple songs. Okay, now I'm really going, okay? Now I'm really going to walk around without pants on. Okay, everyone. And I'm back for a third time. As you can see, this is why I don't do these unscripted videos, because I keep forgetting stuff. You are most likely going to mute your scratch track after your drummer puts down that first bassist track. Only in rare circumstances where there's going to be count-ins in the middle of the song or something like that, you're going to need that scratch track once that drum track is gone. Now, your drummer has a lot resting on his shoulders here. Now, a drummer's main purpose is to be in time. So if your drummer can't be in time, listen, I don't know what to tell you. You're gonna have to kill him or some shit, okay? Your drummer has to be in time, okay? Because that drum track is going to be the grid from that point on. So if he's not up to snuff, you guys got to keep practicing. I know I say this like all the time, but you can't rush a good product. With music, fine, you can fucking computerize it, it's gonna sound like shit anyway. But if you want a real, authentic product that you can be proud of 20 years from now, you can say, I played that, then you're gonna need to practice. It takes me years to be ready to play or record a song because I need that much practice. I'm not that good of a musician, okay? So, I'm not trying to talk down to you, I'm trying to talk with you, okay? Now, where was I going with this? Your drummer, okay? Now, listen, I am a drummer, I'm not a guitar player, I'm a drummer, so naturally, I think when I started to learn guitar, my timing was better than someone who, say, has never played the drums before. So if I could really give, any musician some advice, I really recommend trying to learn how to play the drums. And I already have a video about garage rock drumming. You could get away with extremely simple drumming on your tracks if you want to play your own drums. I know a lot of you guys are relying on, like, Logic drums or whatever the f*** they're called. But I think you should just try to get a drum set and try to learn. You could just get away with boom, ba, boom, ba, boom, ba. I could just name so many garage rock bands right now. I'm getting off topic here. I'm talking about garage rock drumming. Listen, I don't know, but just learn how to play the fucking drums. You'll be better at keeping time. And I've said this before in my Left Foot Independence drum video. You should watch that. It's all about timing. But the way I learned to keep a steady left foot when I'm playing the drums and subsequently that skill, translated to other instruments, keeping a steady left foot going was for like a year. Whenever I listened to any song, anywhere, I made it a point to myself to say, tap your foot along with the beat. And before I knew it, it didn't take a whole year. It just took maybe a couple months until that skill was ingrained in me for the rest of my life. I could listen to any song, tap my left foot along to it, and I could do calculus right now. I could start whatever that motion was. I could do anything, right? My left foot, as we're talking, is still tapping away at a steady beat. I really can't stress that enough. When you're recording, your left foot's got to be tapping. It doesn't have to be your left foot. You get the idea. Okay, this is the last time. This is the last thing I'm saying. This video's probably way too long. You guys aren't even watching anymore. This is just me. I think I watch my videos more than anyone else. Alright. It is 10:30 and I still haven't eaten dinner. I do this for you guys because I love you. How do I look without pants on?